America is still processing the horrifying mass shooting that took place at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas on Tuesday. But in the 3 days since that massacre of 19 children and 2 teachers, we are also having to process a changing police narrative that has come under increased scrutiny for being inconsistent, contradictory, vague, and in some cases just outright unsettling. Now, before I get into that, I want you to take a listen to what Texas Governor Greg Abbott said the day after the shooting.
Let me emphasize something that I know you all know. But the reality is, as horrible as what happened, it could have been worse. The reason it was not worse is because law enforcement officials did what they do. And it is a fact that because of their quick response, getting on the scene, being able to respond to the gunman and eliminate the gunman, they were able to save lives.
The Robb Elementary School shooting is the deadliest school shooting since the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre. But the governor of Texas says that we should be thankful for the lives police saved. And I got to be honest with you, that is not much consolation to the parents and to the grieving community in Texas, especially because police can't even explain how it all unfolded. First, did anyone try to stop the gunman outside the school? Here's what Abbott and other Texas officials said about the moment after the shooter crashed his car near the school and before he entered the school.
Officers with the Consolidated Independent School District, they approached the gunman and engaged with the gunman at that time.
All right, so a school officer on the scene engaged with the gunman before he entered the school. You heard that. But then on Thursday, we got a different story.
Was there a school officer on campus, and was that school officer armed? Because that's what we've been told.
So at this time, no. No, there was not an officer readily available armed. No.
Was there an officer?
No, nothing. I can't answer that yet. I'll circle back with you.
So first, officials said that multiple school officers engaged with the gunman outside the school. Then they couldn't even confirm that there was a single officer there. Well, how long did it take for the gunman to go into the school once his car crashed outside? On Wednesday, Governor Abbott said that after the gunman shot his grandmother, this is what happened.
The gunman fled, and as he was fleeing, he had an accident just outside of the elementary school, and he ran into the school.
But police later said that the gunman was lingering outside for 12 minutes, firing shots at people at a funeral home across the street from the school. 911 got a call at 11:30 a.m. It was at 12:58 p.m., an hour and a half later, that law enforcement said the shooter had been killed. What was happening in those critical 90 minutes? Now, videos have circulated of parents pleading with the officers to go inside the school, though we don't know from those videos what exactly was unfolding inside the school at that time. But video also shows that parents were trying to go into the building themselves and being apprehended.
Don't push me. Go.
Man, y'all can't be like that, man. Y'all can't be like that when there's people.
Yes, I do. Get across the street. Because I'm having to deal with you. Get across the street. Get across the street. I have other stuff to do.
We're going to back up. Are you going to walk into that gate and get them?
6-year-old kids in there. They don't know how to defend themselves from a shooter.
Now, the Wall Street Journal reports that, in fact, one mother was briefly handcuffed and accused of impeding a police investigation after demanding that officers enter the school. Angeli Rose Gomez said that she saw one father thrown to the ground by an officer, another pepper sprayed, and a third who was tasered. She eventually jumped a fence, ran into the school to grab her kids, and actually came out with them. Javier Cesares, though, wasn't able to save his daughter, Jacqueline, a 4th grader in the school. He said this to the Associated Press about the police response, quote, "They say they rushed in. We didn't see that." Now, the reports of what was happening inside the school have also been confounding because we've been told officers barricaded the gunman then that he barricaded himself, and as of Thursday, that it took them an hour to actually get to the gunman, and then he wasn't pinned down at all. Now, eventually, he was killed by a Border Patrol tactical team, not the police. So by the time reporters gathered for a police briefing Thursday afternoon, as you can imagine, there were a lot of new questions. But frustratingly, there were very few answers.
What were the officers doing between 11:44 and 12:44? Can you explain to us how he was barricaded and why you guys cannot breach that door?
So I am taking all your questions into consideration.
Why don't you clear all of this up now and explain to us how it is that your officers who were in there for an hour, yes, rescuing people, but yet no one was able to get inside that room?
Shimon, we will circle back with you.
On Friday, the Texas Department of Public Safety gave another briefing, and we thought maybe we'd get finally some clarity on these events, but in some ways, tragically, it has gotten worse. Not only has the timeline changed, the gunman was apparently outside of the school for 5 minutes, not 12. Police said the reason the active shooter was not stopped or neutralized, apprehended for so long was because they didn't think he was still an active shooter. I mean, listen to this.
What efforts was the officer making to try and break through either that door or another door to get inside that classroom?
None at that time.
Why? Why?
The on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
Sir, you have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, please send the police. They are alive. In that classroom, there are lives that are at risk.
Hey, we're well aware of that.
Right, but why was this made not to go in and rescue these children?
Again, you know, the on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk.
Now, let this sink in just for a second. Students, little children, they are calling 911. They are repeatedly asking for help. But police thought that the active shooter was no longer active, and they just waited. An 18-year-old with a rifle and a bag of ammunition crashed in front of a school, fired shots outside, ran inside, spent an hour inside of the school, and killed or injured dozens of people. Little kids. The authorities we go to for help in these situations keep giving us responses that leave us with more questions than answers. And yet, there has still been this immediate rush to defend law enforcement first, to congratulate them, to deify them as valiant, as Greg Abbott said, rather than any kind of calls for accountability for what went wrong in that hour and a half. We are told the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Well, there were dozens of good guys with guns on Tuesday. So what do we tell the families of these children? What do we tell their teachers? What do we tell a nation struggling to understand what happened? Joining me now is Akayla Lacey, politics reporter at The Intercept. She wrote a story this week headlined, "Cops Didn't Stop the Uvalde School Shooting, and They Might Have Made It Even Worse." And we also have with us Samuel Sinyangwe, founder of the Mapping Police Violence Project. It's great to have both of you with us. Akayla, I'd like to start with you. What was your reaction to learning on Friday that police on the scene no longer believed the situation to be an active shooter without any evidence for them to make that conclusion, so it seems so far?
It's clear that at this point, we can't believe anything that is coming out of DPS or any of the law enforcement officials who have been giving press conferences on this massacre. As you mentioned, the timeline has shifted numerous times. DPS Director Stephen McGraw, admitted that this was the wrong decision made by the commander on the scene to not have law enforcement. In his own words, there was none at that time, no effort at all to breach this door, despite the fact that there were more than 4 911 calls made by the same person in 13 minutes. In addition to that, several other calls, including from children who were making it very clear that there was still a risk inside the school. We also learned yesterday that DPS appeared to confirm that police went into the school to try to save their own children instead of taking the shooter down. So it continues to get worse as we learn more information.
Samuel, your reaction to this?
It's just another example of, despite all of the money, all of the resources, all of the esteem and legal protection given to the police in our society, when people call the police in their moment of highest need, when the situation and the risk is the most extreme, we see again and again and again the police completely fail to protect people's lives, and in many cases, now after the fact, confusing us about what information they even had, how they made decisions. We're getting mixed information. We can't even get the truth out of the police after what is clearly a failed attempt at protecting people. And this isn't the first time we saw this in New York City with the subway shooter, how the most heavily funded police department in the country completely failed and was useless at protecting people from that shooter. We saw in Parkland, the Parkland shooting back in 2018, a officer that was unable to defend those students from a school shooter. I mean, how many times are we going to keep seeing these tragedies, preventable tragedies, and then on top of that, see all the money that has been poured into a response to hopefully protect people utterly fail at doing so?
Okay, let's talk about your article from earlier this week. Elaborate for us and our viewers, what ways might law enforcement have made the shooting worse?
So not only did the police not respond immediately to these calls, but they, there was one fourth grader who told a local news station that when police were in the hall, it appears they told kids, yell if you need help. And a student called for help, and the shooter went over and killed her. That's one example that you've already kind of gone over some of the examples of officers harassing, pinning down, even handcuffing parents, yelling at them, keeping them from going inside the school when they refused parents' calls to enter the school. And we also know that while this school district has its own independent police department, and while DPS has said Texas embraces active shooter training, that none of those school resource officers were on the scene, and that when a UC ISD agent did get to the scene, they drove past the shooter and did not attempt, at least were not successful in apprehending him.
Absolutely incredible when you lay it out like that. Samuel, Governor Abbott said, quote, the quick response by law enforcement saved lives, that it could have been much worse if it not for what they did. It is something we constantly hear from our officials in moments of tragedies like this, that we need to praise law enforcement and first responders. What do you make of his specific comments in relation to this incident and generally the way this country glorifies and deifies first responders and police in the wake of these tragedies, even when the death toll is a staggering number like what we just saw in Robb Elementary?
I think it's outrageous. I mean, when we have, according to the information we've received to date, which again has changed, seems every hour, the information that we have suggests that shooter was in there for almost an hour, killing people. So what quick response are we even talking about? I mean, even the information we have suggests the response was not quick enough at all to protect people from this shooter. And that ultimately it was Border Patrol and not the police that ultimately engaged the shooter. So meanwhile, the video that we do have of the police engaging people is of the police engaging parents. And as you reported, arresting and even potentially pepper spraying fathers and mothers who were trying to save their own kids' lives. I mean, it doesn't get more outrageous, it doesn't get more egregious than that in terms of behavior. That's the behavior of the police in this incident, and they ought to be held accountable for it, not praised.
Akela, my colleagues at NBCNews.com reported this week that the Uvalde School District doubled its security budget since 2017. It had built up its own police force, adding fencing to the schools, doing threat assessments, as you alluded to just a short while ago. And yet none of this stopped this shooter. Why are we still talking about more security, arming teachers, reinforced back doors, bulletproof glass, bulletproof backpacks, if that's somehow the solution when when the majority of these things were put in place at this school, it did not save these children?
There's a fundamental lack of imagination paired with a tendency for law enforcement officials to be able to, again, as we've seen in this situation, peddle this narrative that they are heroes. They're the only person who can protect. They're the only people who can protect us, and that if others, as we saw in the case with parents here, try to step into their role, then they will also be disciplined or even arrested. There has been a concerted effort to prop up this image by politicians in both parties. It not only perpetuates a lie that policing increases public safety, but it creates a culture of fear where criticism of the lack of ability to deliver on these promises is smeared as, sort of anti-law enforcement or anti-American. And we've seen that already, in the public response to this, sort of suggesting that criticism from reporters is sort of attempting to ruin the reputation of law enforcement, when in reality they do that on their own time and time again.
Samuel, you've heard the phrase come from the right: the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. It's become their motto in these moments. But as we've seen, the police, in this case, the supposed good guys with the guns, they were pushing back parents. They were using handcuffs. One parent told the Wall Street Journal she saw pepper spray being used, tasers being used. It was shocking for me to see in a situation like this, but, how has your organization's work affected how you understand law enforcement in these moments? I think back to the police narrative after George Floyd. I think about the police narrative after this incident, and I am one of these journalists who is skeptical when I hear the police account of an incident shortly after that incident takes place.
So my organization, Mapping Police Violence, we've collected the most comprehensive data on people who've been killed by the police in the United States. Again, the federal government does not collect complete information on this topic, which is why our organization is needed. And that information, that data that we get, the information on the behavior of the police across the country, the 1,100 people who are killed by police each year. Already this year, 445 people have been killed by the police. And the majority of those cases are nonviolent, low-level offenses that initiate those interactions with the police. So the police are engaging people for nonviolent reasons, ultimately escalating to a situation where people end up being killed. And you juxtapose that response with extreme force against people who are, suspected of low-level nonviolent issues. Juxtapose that with the response to this mass shooter. And not only this mass shooter, he's not the first. We see this time and time again, where the police are creating a barricade. They're giving the person time and space. They gave him almost an hour there to kill people before even engaging him. So it's a completely different response. The police ultimately seem to be in it for protecting their own lives at everybody else's expense in this incident. Meanwhile, we hear about officers fearing for their lives, believing that they're in danger for the smallest of reasons around people every single day to justify use of force. And in this situation, I think it's clear that when people actually call the police, when their lives are actually in danger, when there's a serious threat, the police ultimately could not be counted on to keep them safe. And that's why we need to stop pouring money into policing as a solution and instead focus on how do we get these guns off the streets? How do we stop people from having AR-15s and assault weapons? How do we protect our kids from an environment in which somebody can so easily get a gun and commit such a heinous crime?